So these two experiences of the township and village enterprises and the special economic zones are quite specific to the Chinese experience. So these firms called township and village enterprises were at the beginning a kind of a heritage of the small-scale industry that existed in the people's communes in agriculture. When agriculture was decollectivized, it was the basis of a development of local enterprises for about 15 years. It has been the most dynamic part. But they were neither private nor state like the big enterprises of the city. And so they had an ambiguous ownership status. But their contribution to growth was remarkable. In the end, after 15 years, they met some problems, especially of competition with the changing state industry and the opening of the economy. And in the 1990s, eventually, they were most privatized. The special economic zones, they also have appeared as a kind of transitory process. This type of opening with specific fiscal conditions for foreign capital, etc., were extended to big cities of the coast and later to the whole coast of China and eventually into the entire country also. So the special character of these zones gradually declined, actually. But their contribution to the whole institutional change was quite important. So both experiences, they are very typical of the Chinese way of using what we could call a dual system. You know, you have the old system there and you introduce some experiments in a tentative way, and possibly for some time you will have two different rules, and after that you may or may not extend it wider. Institutional transformation that would be a success are always embedded in a national context. And especially the idea of having special economic zones for very low development areas, it is maybe problematic because these experiences that have succeeded, they always were linked to infrastructure development, easy communication with other parts of the domestic economy or international economy, the possibility of gradually upgrading local manpower, etc. If there is such a program in Mexico, which I don't know, it is extremely important that it would be based on local conditions, historical experience, present problems of international integration. So China may bring some lessons, but you have to be careful not to think you have found the general recipe. So China has launched these great programs of accelerating technological innovation in the last 15 years. They are big programs and big funding for the government, especially in state-owned enterprises, but also on a wider scale. Because part of the research and development is made in the private sector also, especially the telecommunications sector. It remains to be seen how effective will be these kind of programs in the longer terms. But it is true that, in general, the Chinese economy is climbing the scales of technological development. Something unique in China is that now you have multinational corporations that start their own research and development centers in China. There is a consensus that the university system is absolutely essential in development and modernization in general. There is also an aspect which is specific to the Chinese, the importance they gave to students going abroad. So many of them went abroad, and a significant proportion came back to China to participate in economic change, in business, also in building universities, etc. It's an enormous program of investment trying to relieve some tensions in the national domestic economy, especially the excess of capital of state-owned enterprises. And also it has a geopolitical aspect to extend Chinese influence, economic and political influence, in a number of countries. So it concerns, as you know, infrastructure, transport, finance, many related aspects. However, there are a number of difficulties that already can be seen in different contexts. Some countries are ready to participate or try to gain in this process, mainly through Chinese foreign investment in infrastructure, etc. But in other countries there are some resistances. Also, this changes the international balance. So for instance, the US, Russia, they are not necessarily quite happy with this kind of project as something which may compete with their own influence.